Hello, everyone, and welcome to Short Rests for session 13. Today was a bit of a downtime moment. We kind of explored a little bit of pieces of lives of people going through their own little exchanges within Model Pier and just ended it on a bit of the beginning of a fight. But I think there were a few moments that sort of stood out to me immediately. We had, I think, the events from everyone, like Diva going to Aaron and sort of getting... I wasn't expecting you to get your bindings and bringing that with you. I was like, oh, maybe this will be a moment where I'll be like, oh, cool. I'll catch your slipping. But no, you thought of it, so props to you.
I know you.
I can't get...
We know better.
I gotta be smarter. And yeah, and then having Arrow kind of fully investigating the events within your dream. What is your thoughts on that so far?
Mine are Arrow's.
That's a solid question. I think since this is a short rest, I want to get your thoughts.
I am very curious. I think I have an idea of what's properly going on. And I'm curious to pursue it. Like, I think it's more probably related to, like, the Raven Queen. It's just the vibe I'm getting, but I don't know that. And he doesn't know that, and he doesn't know anything about anything, so he's just going to religious people like, do you know about a psychopomp that happens to be a bird and also a skeleton and also has a ship? So I'm curious to find out more of that for him.
Yeah. It was one of those things where I'm like, there's... In this world of magic and undead and necromancy, it's a lot of like, well, I think religious texts would either tell you it's symbolism, like, oh, yeah, it is a ferryman, you know, guiding souls to the afterlife, Allah, you know, very, you know, Raven Queen. Or, you know, we're in a world of undead. Sometimes you'll run against, like, ghost ships and things like that. So there's probably tales. It's hard to tell, but I'm going to give you the full spectrum so you can make your own decisions so you don't think it's just one thing.
Yeah.
Oh, one other thing that I forgot, especially jumping back to Diva, there was the conversation that you had before you slept with Harper, kind of letting you know, like, hey, I have suspicions of what's going on here, but you were able to pull him back from, like, fully just sort of diving into that idea.
Yeah, I have thoughts on that. It's all like, I know you suspect something, but how much do you know and why do you know this? Because like you said, it's like, I think he knew enough, he knew better to push it, but he wasn't necessarily off my case. So...
Yeah. While you were gone, especially being some of the team that was investigating a lot of stuff, you know, when you guys were in trial, kind of saw the harnesses, saw the damage, was like, all right, what makes sense here? And kind of came to some conclusions. But you were able to stop him, and I think since you've done some good with him, he was like, all right, if you feel like you can control whatever's happened to you, I'm not going to press it. I'm going to believe you. I'm going to trust you.
I'm like, if you're not going to say it, I'm not going to admit to it, so...
That's a smart thing to do with cops.
I plead the fifth.
Yeah, that's a very smart thing to do with cops.
Diva's very ACAB. If...
I feel like that's like half the party.
Phoenix and Arrow? We won't go into that.
Hey,
No, please, let's do.
He's a simple man.
We're just acknowledging it.
He had a good time.
Neighborly complaints.
Like,
Keep it down.
We're going around.
Fine.
Knock, knock, knock. Keep it down in there.
I love the reaction of how excited either you or he got when he was like, okay.
I was not ready for the pickup line.
Right?
That
Wow.
one caught me.
By the way, I mean, we're doing the deed in a brothel. I would assume that the walls were, you know,
they were a little
enforced
bit
enough.
thicker of a wall.
A little thicker walls to give privacy for clientele.
If you don't remember what happened in our session 1, no, they're not.
Oh,
But-
okay, sorry, my bad.
Oh, there was like mention of like, hey, it's kind of what's going on with the screamers.
The question
true.
here really is who was the one screaming?
Exactly.
I don't want to. No, we're moving past that. We're not getting it. Not doing it. Hey, Morris, that was a really great speech you had planned.
Oh, thank you. You'd be surprised at how quick I thought it up when I had no way to, when it was the only thing I could focus on with all the constant screaming.
We're moving on. Oh my god.
Look, you don't have to
that
be jealous.
was
It's okay, calm
really
down.
amazing.
Yeah, it was.
Thank you. Yeah, I've had it in my pocket for a bit, and I was just like, I've been waiting for the moment, and then once we hit level 4, and I realized, wait, at level 3 I got the oath, but we never actually did the oath. Oh, that's the thing I need to do.
Yeah. But no, I mean, I think it was very impactful, and there was obviously some not contradiction, but like some underside pull from Legati was like, damn it, I could have done something with that. Just how the cards fell, I think.
Opportunity lost.
I had like no idea of Legati's like intentions or what he wanted to do. Remember, I didn't even know Legati was in Legati's room. I asked him what he was doing here, and I'm like, oh, that's right. Yeah, this is your room. Yeah. Yeah. What are you doing here in your room?
And I want to dive, and I don't want to expunge too much of what we talked about pre-game, like way before this game even started. I know you wanted to have some type of book tied to you, Morris. So this was somewhat planned.
I think the book was a definite nice touch. I like the book aspect of it. The missing pages and essentially a euphemism for the story that must be told. So I like it. What's going to be contained in those pages, we're just going to have to wait and see.
Yeah. And I mean, Nick, were you part of like some sort of religious group where you went from door to door in white collared shirts and told people? Because that was amazing, by the way. I wanted to convert.
Just a fan of interesting philosophies, I guess. The
fair.
The stuff, the first part about that, all like history has just been a succession of different gods and demons like replacing one another, but there's the great shadow underneath. Yeah. That's all Legati. That's an actual Thomas Legati quote from the Salal. And that's like hinting at this thing that's underneath everything people have worshipped. The rest of the stuff with the pendulum that was all supposed to be delivered to Moors, like that was me trying to like write down and explain how would you explain what the Salal is in like a not a friendly way, but a like, hey, this is what I believe, and I'm just gonna lay it out there, and then you can think on it, and maybe it gets in your head and hangs out there, and you can't get rid of the thoughts. And,
End of campaign, Legati's a cult leader.
That's the thing is, the weird thing about the belief in the Salal, and the belief that everything we're doing is just aspects of this chaos swirling underneath us, and even our thoughts right now are not real, right? Is that like the ultimate destination for belief in that is like self-destruction. It's infinite change so much that you don't have an identity anymore. If that's really what you believe, and that is really the course of reality, it's like you don't even need to get converts, because it's what is the point of that? Because that's just the nature of reality. In the story, in the Salal, which I don't think is the destination of Legati, there's like an avatar of the Salal. It's basically the child of the Salal being brought into this world. And as he's growing up, he's going to like destroy the world as he grows into his powers. He's going to not destroy the world, but rip away the surface level. That is what we think is reality. And the way they fix it is a guy who knows what's going on I'm going to spoil the Salal for anybody who hasn't read the story. Great story. You should read it if you like short horror fiction. But they chop him into pieces, and a bunch of people eat him. And a bunch of, like a whole town's worth of people eat little bits of him. And that's how you contain the Salal for now, is a whole bunch of people have to absorb a little bit of that chaos. That's not what I want for Legati.
Yeah, I was going to say, is this a belief system?
I think Legati has to dive into that pool of changing water at some point. I feel like that
Yeah.
Giving yourself, like, releasing the identity that he thinks he has grown up thinking he has, and fully embracing 100% change, right?
I fully imagine the party getting to like chorus within the Jeweled Unity, and chorus is right next to the gazing pool, and talking to Ambrosia, like if there was ever a moment where like, hey, we're meeting back up to maybe do a desert adventure, and kind of like on a balcony, and just can't fully commit to the conversation, and looking over at the pool off in the distance, and like,
oh, it's right there. Yeah.
Do we have to go to the desert now?
Can I just like take a swim real quick?
That's
just for a moment.
It's not quite hypocrisy, but that is the thing about Legati, is that if he really believed 100% in the truth of it, there would be no point in anything but losing himself entirely. But he's too interested in it. And he's interested in figuring it out, and he's interested in telling people about it. And so that is that little bit of tension between, like, what is the point of that? Why aren't you just, destroying yourself with change if you really believe in this 100%?
Yeah, that's why Errol asked him what he thought about death, because he was listening to him. He's like,
Yeah, and that is like
really destructive.
I have played Legati as like a less concerned about his own mortal safety. His armor class is usually 10. It's at most 13 when he has mage armor up, which he usually
Holy
does.
Crap.
But he doesn't play like that.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I'm sure it will be fine, and if it's not, it doesn't matter, because I've always been just like rot believing itself to be a man. So it doesn't really matter, like, it's just the next thing that happens, right?
Fascinating.
Yeah.
God, you do realize there's going to be a point where me and you are going to go, my God is better than your God, right? They're very, very similar, but they're very, very different.
The
There's a
frustrating
split,
thing
yeah.
about
Definitely.
Legati is that he wouldn't argue that. He would just argue that your God is just a one level up mask on the Salal. The Salal is the universe.
And I would go, how dare you say Rakdos is a one-level god? I should make sure you
It's like, you're right. Your God is amazing. I'm so happy that it's a portion of representation of the Salal. It's like,
It's
can't
like
do that.
the Salal is like gravity, and like everything else, it's the force underneath everything else. And so it's like, you don't worship gravity. There's no point in that. You acknowledge the amazing truth of it, right? That's the Legati path.
I feel like he was like, can't fucking do that. That just fuck you. That doesn't make sense.
Fair, yeah.
Not fair. And then Phoenix, we had you talking a little bit further with Josh, learning about the forward guard, learning that, Obi was a founding member. I think other than the small hint you gave to the party, I don't think you actually fully discussed who Obi was and all that.
That's something new to her, because that's something we didn't even talk about, because like for the longest time Phoenix thought he was part of an order, and he would never tell her because she was 15 and was pissed the fuck off at life and was just like, I'm going to hit somebody really fucking hard. And he was like, you need to chill the fuck out. So
This old 70-year-old man is just like, stop. I will put you in a headlock. I don't care if you're like, you've got 60 years on me.
even at 72, he could throw her on her ass, and she'd think it was a fun thing to do just because that's what she does. She loves to train. But yeah,
he's more popular than you thought. I mean, we purposely, when we built Obadiah, that he was a person who didn't really talk a lot about his background, his history. And yeah, he's a sea elf. So I'm saying by age of an elf, he was old by then, by the time he got to you.
That's why when she seen Volred, she was like a little intrigued a little bit, like as a reminder. And then he turned out to be a giant asshole, and she was like, forget it.
Circling back to the We Hate Volred club.
Oh yeah, let's talk about that. Volred, I mean, at least from what Harper was able to find, was that he was like, I was at the precinct and I just saw, Volred being escorted by just 2 guards, and they took off. And he was like, that's really odd. Spoke to some people within the precinct, and it's like, hey, was approved? Who's approved by? And they were like, we don't do that. Everyone's assigned by, the powers that be over in Outslock. It's like,
He has to know somebody.
Yeah, it's a big conspiracy.
So that's why he was like, I got to talk to people who are a little bit more free agent than I am because I can't let this go.
Like, I'm sure he knew somebody, like, before we were even in the picture of, like, this is my plan, this is what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna go tell somebody that these idiots did it. Or whatever, they drowned, and Tanner drowned. So that's why I'm just like, he has to know somebody.
No, I mean, I definitely think there has to be a definite higher level government type of connection, just because too many things went into place way too quickly. It wasn't a matter of like, oh, a day later this happened. It was like, no, we were on the boat, they showed up, then this sham of a courtroom hearing happened. So
The only reason I'm like not suspicious of the judge is because she couldn't stand his ass. So I was like, okay, maybe not her.
There was some clear sort of information that you guys gathered, and if we were to imagine an alternative world where you guys did not exist, I mean, from the way things played out, you can imagine that if you weren't there to, you know, be witness on what occurred, Tanner would have died. So with probably everyone upon the torn chain, the property would have gone up into the air because Tanner never labeled anyone as a sort of a successor or business partner. Banks would have came in already prepped and ready within like a few days' time, and who knows what would have occurred.
But it also puts in mind the whole thing of the property of the twins, because we actually still don't know what happened to them because they did die, and then everything that Ambrosia knows, if this is all connected.
Probably the bank took over all that shit. If like there was nobody there to, like what Josh did, like say no, I'm gonna outbid you. Also, Moors and Phoenix need to have a conversation because she is very much aware of the Evergrey shit. Very much.
Well, you know, that's definitely something we can cover once we knock the first thing out the way, which
Yeah.
I was hoping to do at some point today, except, oh, look at that. Trying to scam us out of money.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Me and
Morris
Mark,
doesn't take... Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say it's like someone coming and being like, boy, we have 5 witnesses here seeing you next to a dead body. That's very suspicious. We can tell the guards. Or you
Dude.
can pay us and we'll keep silent.
She's like,
See,
"Or I
but the
could
funny
beat
thing
your
is,
ass."
there's also 5 witnesses that saw you next to the body. It's your team versus our team, dog.
Morris is not a fan of extortion, so Morris is going to take it a step further and say, you know, there's 5 of you, but there's 5 of us who saw the guard and said we found 5 bodies here.
Yeah, we're
Don't know how they got
friends
here.
They're
with the
yeah.
cops in Muddle Pier.
they're definitely working with the inside of like, you guys are just travelers, so
Yeah.
they don't know your history. They're just like, oh, you're just 5 randos. Well, you might want to pay us or we're gonna squeal, not knowing that you already have work within
I get to try out some of my new magic today that I got the help of Legati for.
Oh my god, I get to try out my new Warhammer. Oh, it's going to be so good. I'm just going to need you to stand right there. Just don't move. Ooh, that's a good spot. That's a good spot.
Oh my God.
Well, I think that's going to be it for today's short rest. So thank you so much for joining us for session 13, and we'll check you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.